Now it's said, and said truly, of the hero Finn McCool, that if one day goes by without his name being mentioned, the world will come to an end. So judging by the way things are going, it's just as well I'm mentioning his name to you tonight now. Finn was a great hero altogether. And it was said of Finn McCool's generosity that his house was the stranger's home, and if the leaves of the forests of the world were red gold and the waters of the world white silver, Finn would have given them all away. Well, Finn was hunting once. He was very fond of hunting. Why wouldn't he love it? His own nephews were hunting dogs under enchantment, boys under enchantment as hounds, you know. And the greatest hunting dogs in the world they were, and their names were Bran and Skiolan. But it's not the story of Bran and Skiolan that I'm telling you tonight, though I do know it. Finn was out hunting one time, and he had with him one of his greatest friends, a man by the name of Conan Mowell. Now, that means Conan the Bald. They called him Conan the Bald, for he had no hair on his head, but he had that much hair on his back, on his legs, and his arms, that they used to shave him once a week, and all the stockings and gloves that Finn, or any of the heroes that Finn had with him, ever wore were made out of the wool from Conan Mowell. You'll have heard of Conan the Barbarian, likely. That was named after this Conan by an old traditional idea called a rip-off. Conan Mowell. Remember the old joke about the bald-headed man at the party? There was this fella that had a bald head, and he had a friend of his, a good friend, that had a lot of hair left. And his friend that had the hair was at a party with his bald chum, and he wanted to make fun of this bald-headed man, you know. So he patted him on the bald head, and he went, baldy, 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 baldy. He says, that feels just like my wife's behind. And the bald-headed man put his hand up to his own head and said, why, so it does. Conan Mowell. He never saw an open door, but he thought it his duty to walk through it. He never saw a man frown, but he thought it his duty to strike him. But it's not the story of Conan that I'm telling you tonight. Finn had with him this time also another great hero by the name Dermot of the Love Spot. And Dermot had a mark on his face, and he had to keep that covered with his hat. For if any woman saw it, she'd fall passionately in love with him. And he was one of the greatest hunters in the world, but he'd never hunt wild boar. But it's not the story of Dermot that I'm telling you. These three men, they were hunting one time in the island of Arran, Arran that is in the Clyde. God bless and keep it forever. Maybe they were hunting the white stag of Arran, but whatever they were hunting, they did not catch it. But the dark of the night caught them, hungry, weary, and far from home. They saw a wee light twinkling, winking away across the moors. They made their way towards that light, and they knocked on that door. And the door creaked open, and there on the steps is an old man with long white hair down to the heels of his feet, long white eyebrows like brushes on him. And he looked up to them and he said, oh, I see you standing there in the pouring rain. But you'll just behave yourselves like gentlemen if you're going to come into my house. I'll have no shenanigans from the likes of you. Well, Conan looked at Finn, and Finn looked at Dermot, and very surprised they were to hear themselves spoken to so harshly by this little sprig of a man, sprig of an old man, them the highest heroes in the land. And they followed him meek enough into his front room, and there was a wee white goat frisking about that room. And the old man said, will you just tether this white goat to that hook on the wall? And he handed Conan a long grass rope, and he left the room. Well, Conan tried to tether that white goat, but he couldn't get near it. Dermot tried, and Finn himself after him, and not one of them better than the other. Till at last the old man come back into the room, and he tethered that goat as easy as you'd take one step after another. It was at this time a beautiful young woman came into the room as well. A very, very beautiful young woman, and not to make too long a tale out of it, for her hair was like the midnight and her eyes were like the morning. Not to make too long a tale out of it, they were all smitten with love for her, or something like it. And Dermot, whom all women loved, said to her, "Bright pulse of my heart and apple of my whole understanding, how can I ever pass one lonely hour of my life in the absence of your sweet company?" And other things that young men say on these occasions. But with an angry flash of her eye, she spun on her heels and left the room, saying, "Truly I was once yours, and little enough you cared for me then." Well, she slammed the door behind her and was gone, and it's little enough sleep they got that night for pure curiosity. And in the morning before they took their leave, Finn said to the old man, he said, "Sir, why was it that you could tether the white goat that none of us could catch? And why was it you spoke so sternly to us, the highest heroes in the land? And why was it that beautiful young woman spoke so harshly to Dermot, saying that once she had been his and he had cared not for her then? For truly neither he nor we have ever seen her before. And what is her name at all?" And the old man said, "Her name is youth, and there's little enough that any of you cared for her while she was yours until she was gone. And the name of the wee white goat is the world, and there's none can bind that but me, and my name is death."